Hi everyone, welcome to the Mimi Janha show. I'm your host, Mimi Sise Janha. This was
appreciate more. I'm immensely grateful also for the opportunity to be present here with you in person. I thank you for it on my behalf and on behalf of the entire Gambian nation. Indeed, without the privilege of representing the Gambia here from 2013 to 2018, there would not be such accomplishment or recognition of this summit. Mesdames, Mesdemoiselles et Messieurs, je ne saurais terminer cette litanie de remerciements sans rendre hommage à des maîtres de chantier qui ont illuminé mon parcours parsemé d'embûches, en semant des graines de lumière. Leurs enseignements et leurs conseils n'ont cessé de nous rappeler de ne pas faire l'amalgame entre sacerdoce et symétrie, entre les attributions et les privilèges liés aux nombreuses fonctions qui nous sont confiées. Je voudrais nommer le professeur Jean-Dominique Penel, le professeur Liliane Kessler et le professeur Sovi Kamara, et tous les enseignants que j'ai rencontrés sur mon cheminement intellectuel. Notre souci premier est de servir et veiller à ce que toute semence de parole soit traduite par une moisson date. Finally, I leave you with these thoughts. We are who we serve, and we are nothing without those we represent. I yearn not to be glorified for the position I occupy, but I pray to be remembered for the services I render in the position I occupy. I thank you, Vicky.
Je vous remercie de votre message si puissant et si émouvant à la fois. On a different note, I wonder, Madam Deputy Secretary General, if for the next year award we may think to offer bicycles as prizes. It may help also to fight climate change.
edition of the Mimi Janha Show. I'm your host, Mimi Fatou Sise. On our edition today, we've been so honored to have the current Minister of Foreign Affairs, His Excellency, you've held Mamadou Tangara on our show today. This man has been so prominent in the Gambian government. He's done so many great things for Gambia. On this special edition today, he's actually been awarded a United Nations Population Award for 2019. It's such an honor to have you on the show, sir. For the viewers that are watching the show, we all know the great things that you've done for Gambia. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why this award, what does this award mean to you personally?
Thank you very much, Mimi Fatou Sise. It's a great honor to sit with you.
Thank you, sir.
And it is long overdue. You've been asking for an interview. I normally don't give interviews.
Thank you.
Due to the nature of my work, you know, diplomacy is done behind closed doors.
True.
And people who do not understand the intricacies of diplomacy will think that maybe sometimes you are running away from the cameras, the limelight, but that's part and parcel of our work. You know? It's built on trust and confidence, so you cannot be going around and talking all the time.
That's true.
But I'm really delighted to be your host today and to talk about the award. For me, I may be honored to represent not only my country but the whole African continent. But as I said yesterday, the merit goes to all my colleagues, because I've been able to do this because of the support that I had from my colleagues. And you've seen the turnout yesterday and the tremendous support. And during the very difficult days also, if you see the amount of messages I received, I could not do less than what I did. But it's not me, it's because I had the support of my colleagues. And first and foremost also, I have the blessing of my parents.
Amen.
I had wonderful parents who inspired me, who put values in me. And I made a promise to my father that I would never do something that would make him feel ashamed. And I've been going with that in my whole life. And to my mom also, you know, in Africa when you succeed, you are the child of each and everyone in the community.
That is
but
true.
when you fail, they blame it on the mom.
Absolutely.
And I'm blessed. I think I had a wonderful mom who unfortunately passed away at a very early age.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry to hear that.
But that's part of life. My father stayed with me and he passed away like 3 years ago. And officially he was 99 years old, so I had all the time to enjoy the time with him. And yeah, that's part of life.
You know, talk about you, His Excellency. You've held a lot of different positions in the Gambian government. You know, one time, of course, you were Minister of Higher Education, the Minister of Fishery. You also National Authority to support unit for the European Union. And you also the UNESCO science sector. So you held all this position in the past, and then the previous one, which was the primary representative of the United Nations for the Gambia. And now you are actually the current Minister of Foreign Affairs. Talk to us, you being a Gambian, holding 2 master's degree and also a doctorate. How was the experience like? Because you were a lot younger, growing up, you pretty much grew up in the Gambian government. And some of us are sitting here today and practicing what we do the most and what we love because of people like yourself that paved the way and also gave us opportunity. So walk us through the experience. How was it like as a young man getting in power?
You know, for me, I don't consider myself a politician. You know, I came into all this for me by accident. You know, what I'm really passionate about, to be quite honest, is research and academia. I'm really passionate about it. But at some point I was asked to join government several times and I turned it down.
Wow.
But then I reached a stage where, you know, you cannot continue to say no. But
Sure.
I had a good job with the European Union. I was at some point coordinating all the European Union funded programs in the Gambia.
Wow.
I did some consultancy for the UNFPA because I'm also a demographer by training. I'm a journalist.
Wow.
I studied all
Yeah,
this.
I also saw that you were editor-in-chief for the French magazine. I couldn't really pronounce the name right, but when I saw it,
La Lune, but I studying journalism in
incredible.
France. But sometimes I say to people, is that you should not be impressed about all this.
We are impressed. We are super duper impressed.
I was just fortunate to be given all these opportunities, and for me, I said it yesterday, I really hated school,
And then you end up with two masters and a doctorate.
And sometimes when for me, as I said yesterday, my main motivation, I was studying hard. Today for kids, this is something normal. They have their bicycle, but I desperately wanted to have my own bicycle.
I love that statement yesterday when you talked about the bicycle.
That's how my father motivated me. He said, if you want to get a bicycle, work hard before you get a bicycle. But I never got the bicycle. But anyway,
and you couldn't even ride the bicycle.
Yeah, up to now I cannot ride a bicycle.
Oh, no.
But sometimes in my dream I see myself riding a bicycle. Maybe one, but I think it's too late for me to ride a bicycle. But I can drive a car, so
but we can still have that as as we going because it's still an achievement.
But that shows children today have a lot of possibilities, a lot of options, especially in the West, and they don't realize what they have.
Sure.
And I don't think that my children are happier than me. Because I do not remember one single time where I did not have my breakfast, my lunch, my dinner, and we had a very happy life, enjoying time in Banjul with my friends, playing football, doing a lot of interesting things.
Absolutely.
So we are a very happy childhood.
Wow, that's incredible. That's just beautiful. I'm gonna go back to, of course, talking about you, and then we're going to talk about the awards yesterday, of course, because I think that's the highlight of the show, because we're going to show you guys the clips and also how much you were loved and how many support you had from the community and the friends that you have here in New York and all around the world. So His Excellency, let's talk about you as a child. What were some things that you were telling yourself, were you aspired to be in the government? Because I consider people like you actually a public servant than a politician, because you have your standpoint, you have your viewpoint, and you have your own ideology, even though you are working with the government, but you also have your own individuality. Talk to us about that, and what was some things that you were aspired to be when you grew up?
My father really wanted me to be the headmaster in a school.
That was a great one. A principal headmaster.
Yeah, thank God I got more than that. But for me, as a child, I really, as I said earlier, I'm passionate by research. And at some point, I was working with the EU, I resigned, and I decided to pursue a PhD degree and try to know myself. Knowing myself, meaning trying to understand what I call the African industry of Africans. Only when we travel outside of Africa, then you suddenly realize that you know little about yourself, little about your culture. So for me, the PhD was a quest for self-knowledge. And that gave me the opportunity to travel extensively in Guinea-Bissau, in Mali, in the Gambia, and I was invited in several countries. I had fellowships from my universities. I had funding from my universities. I was fortunate to spend some time at the London School of Oriental and African Studies. I spent time at Bayreuth University in Germany. All the major centers dealing with African knowledge, African studies. And that was a wonderful experience for me, and especially interacting with people we considered illiterate because they've not been to Western school. But I learned a great deal, a lot from these people. I was fortunate to meet the man they call the Master of the Art of Speech, the Belentigi in Kela, which is considered to be the University of Mande in terms of oral traditions. And when you learn from these people humility, and you learn a level of wisdom that you cannot get in any book.
It's very fascinating where you said you went for your master's to do research about Africa and of course African. Back in the days, I'm sure it's even harder than now because I looked at it like, Africa, our story haven't been told. It's already been told from the Western perspective, Western perception of Africa. The media looks at Africa in a whole different way. And we growing up and being born from Africa, we see it in a whole different way. I don't know if that makes sense. So you pursuing a doctorate degree in something that the media is not really focusing on or paying attention on, what's going through your mind during your study? Even though you know that, I'm doing this, but what are the opportunity of me actually telling the story of the typical African who's going to listen to me when the media already have its own perception of Africa and audience are already, have their viewpoint about Africa, but you still went ahead and studied doctorate about studying your own people so you can share it with the world. So what was going through your mind to go for a doctorate in something like that?
When you do a PhD, your main objective is what kind of contribution you can bring to the field of knowledge.
Sure.
And trying to understand African oral traditions, especially Kabu. I concentrated on Kabu.
Kabu.
Yeah. And some great people like Bakari Sidibe did wonderful work on Kabu. Sometimes people will consider me in some circle as the expert, but I always...
You are an expert.
No, I'm a dwarf standing on the shoulders of a giant like Bakari Sidibe.
We were going to ask that one.
And I was blessed to have his cooperation, and he encouraged me. He told me, you know what, I've done my part, and there is areas that I was not able to cover. I hope you will be able to cover them. And then I was fortunate to meet a great professor, Professor Sori Kamara. I mentioned him yesterday. And Sori considered me he considers me as his spiritual son.
Wow, that's incredible.
And, this is a man who also did tremendous lot of studies about Africa. And some of my professors actually are angry with me. They say they do not understand why I decided to leave academia and find myself into government. But I think it's also for me a mission.
It's the same, actually.
Sometimes you say, this is what I want to do. Man proposes, God disposes.
I like that.
I'm grateful to God. And when you start studying your own culture, you learn a lot, especially African culture, Mandinka culture.
The Mandinka culture.
The Mandinka contributed a great deal in not only in the history of our region, but in global history. Do you know that the association called Mansa, Manding Soli Association, the headquarters is here in New York, at the State University of New York.
I never knew that.
I am a member, and Honourable Sidi Ajata is a member, and they even had a conference in the Gambia. And you also have what they call ISOLA, which is the International Society for Oral Literature in Africa. And when you start studying it, so that we safeguard this culture, And Gambia, we are blessed with the research and documentation department, which is a gold mine that we do not know.
Oh,
On Cabo Island, you have over 3,000 tapes collected by Bakari Sidibe.
How do we get all this information?
And then some universities are interested in this, but I mean, little are we doing to try to preserve them, even the condition in which they're preserved leaves much to be desired. But when you know this culture, Senghor used to say that we have towering spoken monuments surrounded by a wall of silence. The old monument parlé entouré par un mur de silence. Even the kora player, the tunes that they are playing, they are talking to the man who is narrating the story. And every day they are talking to us, but we do not understand. We cannot even. We are hearing, but we are not understanding what they are telling us.
You're telling me that the Mandinka tribe is deeper than what we think being a Mandinka is?
Well, have you ever heard of the Charter of Fuga?
No, I haven't.
That's one of the first texts dealing with human rights, and it emanated from Mandi. That was well before Magna Carta, well before the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
His Excellency,
and you also have,
we need to be educated.
You have in Ethiopia what they call the Fita Negas, the Kaba Negas. These are all texts that deal with human rights, with constitution, and all of them came from Africa. And that's why we once had a summit in Addis Ababa, and we were talking about shared values. And I was wondering which values are we sharing? Because little do we know about our own history ourselves. Because when we go to school, we are taught histories of Britain, France. There is nothing wrong with that, but please let us try to know about our own history. Because you know the Wolof say, ko abobot, nga xol fu buga. Nga fu ngay xol, bo abe bot ko abobot nga xol fu kila abal bot buga nga xol. When you see yourself through the eyes of others, you will be always lagging behind. It's like Korea, Japan. These are highly technological societies, where science and technology occupy a pride of place in their development process. But culture is important. Yeah.
Because
how kind is hard to find, and I'm
very long list of friends and colleagues who stood by me and supported me in various ways, especially during the dire and risky moments of the well-known political development of the country. And I remember I was attending an award ceremony. One of my friends here, President George, was being awarded. And Baba Tunde, the late Baba Tunde of blessed memory, said that he was very proud to be an African. Because when the former president graciously conceded defeat and congratulated the president-elect, he said, Africa has taught the whole world a lesson. And everybody was clapping.
Stories have not been told. Like someone like yourself, you're giving me information that I've never knew in my life. So, I felt like, okay, especially coming from Gambia and the situation that we were in for the past 22 years from the former government, where pretty much practicing journalism was almost a no-no. So I felt like our stories have not been told. Some people like yourself that have so much to give, so much to tell, so much to teach. But I felt like the media never highlighted that part of Gambia.
Maybe I was not also sharing with the media.
You should!
No. Yeah, I mean,
maybe write a book.
So, I'm going to publish a book.
I will.
Yeah.
Can I be?
There is some editing that I need to do because there are things that are only for academia. You cannot give it to the general public because these are information they cannot digest.
We cannot wait for that. So, that would be such an amazing
that
contribution.
And I've already published a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. You're writing?
Yeah, it's called deliberations and colloquium. And I used to write for the Point newspaper.
Wow!
Yeah. And I used to do some editing for the Point newspaper.
I am so fascinated by it right now because, this is a core journalism. This is a core journalism.
I mean, Data Haidara was a very, very well. Mm-hmm. I asked my student the permission to go and demonstrate and come back in the afternoon and I would catch up for the hour that I would miss. Wow. And that was the first time that my father asked me not to do something, but I did it. Because he told me not to participate in any demonstration. But for me, my conscience didn't allow me not to join the demonstration. And I think I was there with people like one of my friends who is now the principal at St. Masca, Sehuba, Demba Jao, I can fully remember. Wow. I think Sirif Boyan. We were all there. And the second time when my father asked me something and I had the courage, because if there is one person I'm scared of, it was my father. And my children would, and my brothers and sisters would tell you that. That's about FGM, because he was asking me, when am I going to let my daughters be initiated? I said, Daddy, these are my daughters. And he insisted, I said, these are my daughters. And he said to me, you don't have answer like this if your mom was alive. I said, as far as FGM is concerned, have to do it to my children, my daughters, you have to do it over my dead body. And in any day you do that, that would be the last time you will see him. And he understood, and at least we never discussed it after. And I think that saved also my younger sisters after they didn't go through this painful experience.
Wow.
These were the only two
His
that-
Excellency Dr. Tangara. That's a very touchy subject for me personally, and I know how much you advocate behind Janha, and also
I call her a monster. She's crazy. She's a wonderful young woman.
yeah, she is, and I saw how much you actually was supporting her, and of course you being a male and the Gambian community and the Gambian society and our ideology and also what we believe FGM should be like, coming from a prominent someone like yourself, but you stood so firm to protect your younger siblings and also your daughters as well. We recommend you for that. And thank you for having a voice that we're still struggling to have, and you're actually practicing that as well. So moving on, His Excellency.
In 1 week, we were at the Pride of Africa, and the following week, the Laughing Stock of Africa. I say, I'm not going to support this. And then I decided, I told my staff that I'm not asking anyone to follow me. But personally, I've decided not to continue. But then a young man in the office told me, no, you don't have to do that, Ambassador. Let's stay on and use this platform and make sure that the Republic of the people stands. And he said to me, I'm ready to go down. But I told everyone in the office that you don't have to follow me. This is my own personal decision. And that young man is no other than my counsel. Now I want to express my gratitude to all the colleagues in New York, and I'm so happy to be here, seeing all the friends around. Olaf was the president of the security.
His Excellency, you were, of course, the only representative for United Nations during the transition, and we all knew the kind of president we had, President Janha. His Excellency, you were one of the first person to ask him to step down during the transition when he lost the election. And you were still working for him, which was working for the government, and you were still working for him. Talk to us, because critics are out there talking, but we know what happened behind the door. And also when you gave your speech yesterday, I was moved by some of the choices that you made. To pretty much, you chose the Gambia over your boss's pretty much words, because when you did that, he asked you to come back home. Pretty much, everything was done, but you stood firm. Talk to us. What was going through your mind during that time, especially for the critics that never had to say anything about that? For you to be such a high position man like yourself, and you held so many different positions in the former government, but when the time was up, you stood there and said, you know what, I'm standing with my Gambian people, not for the man that I'm working with. What was going through your mind, knowing what kind of a person he was? It could have been deadly for you, your family member, or anyone that's close to you, but you stood firm for the Gambian people.
In life there are defining moments where you have to either be on the right side of history or the wrong side of history.
True.
And I'm a law-abiding person. As long as he was constitutional president, we supported him. And we did all we could to make sure that we do not have a situation of chaos in the Gambia. Our main motivation then was to see how best we can even get him out of the country and make sure that peace prevails to save life. Because in a war, we are all losers. And the most important, he himself used to tell me that the most formidable weapon is dialogue. Since everything will end up in a dialogue, why not start with a dialogue?
So dialogue was very important.
So I reminded him of some of the things he was telling me. And we had tremendous support from many governments who were ready to help. But unfortunately, he decided to stay, and what happened. But even with that, still they participated, they helped. And I think this is our opportunity to pray through because sometimes there are a lot of misunderstanding and misconception.
Yes, sir.
Most of the countries that came to our rescue did it not because they had some particular interest, but their only motivation was to see peace prevail in the Gambia, be it Mauritania, Chad, many people do not know about it,
Wow.
Morocco, Senegal, Nigeria. The main motivation was to make sure that peace prevailed. Equatorial Guinea. He has no particular relationship with the former president, but as an elderly statesman, knowing that there is a Chinese general who said that even when you surround your enemy completely, give him an exit. If not, the person will be suicidal, and in the process, he will kill himself and kill others. So they created that exit for him out of love for the government. The Mauritanian president, for example, if you notice during the impasse, Mauritanians were in Gambia. They didn't go out. He said, I'm not going to move you out of this country because when the situation was rosy, you were here. Now that it's bad, don't leave. Stay with the people. We'll make sure that peace prevails. And that's what happened. And we are grateful to all of them for their support.
So how does that make you feel? Your background and all the stuff that you went to school for, being a doctor, that you are here today. Where do you? Because my point of view, when I was looking at the situation, I was like, like back in the days, war is everything. Africa cannot be stable. Africans are not stable. According to the West, I live in the West, but I'm just saying. Now that you're seeing Africans are actually taking initiative to fight for peace without no intervention from the West, how does that make you feel?
Sometimes I think people should have the decency to listen to us. No one can love us more than ourselves.
Absolutely.
Africans, we know what we want.
Yes, sir.
And you have capable people in Africa. The only problem is that sometimes people think that they know Africa better than us. And sometimes they do not listen. But in the case of the Gambia, I think people were listening to us. And a lot of things happen behind closed doors. And maybe one day people will know more about what.
But we need our stories to be told. And we need people like yourself to tell us and help us.
One thing I know of countries like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, America, France, all these countries were fully behind us and supporting to make sure that.
But because the Africans, the African leaders,
the Africans were speaking with one voice. We have
unity.
What we call the A3, the three African members of the Security Council. They were all speaking with one voice.
It made me
proud.
proud.
That's also very, very important. And ECOWAS did a wonderful work, and we are blessed to have someone like Dr. Chambers. And his then boss also, Jeffrey Feldman, is a wonderful man who did a lot for the Gambia. But one day
people will know. One day, and we are watching.
And sometimes, it's good when you occupy public offices, you will hear.
To receive this amazing population award for 2019 United Nations. How does that make you feel? And also, like, what advice do you have for young Gambians out there that want to pursue or want to be in some kind of a position working for United Nations one day?
I'm humbled by the award. When I first get the news, people knowing me know that I'm not really the award person type. You go to the office there, I have several awards and it's not mentioned anywhere.
Wow.
But I think this was an opportunity for me to express my gratitude to all those who supported us and continue to support us. So for me, that was really the opportunity to say thank you to all those who are supporting us. And for me, I sincerely believe that the merit goes to all of us. It's a collective merit. The Gambian people, to our leaders, to my colleague ambassadors, If you see the kind of messages I received during those days, and even after I got the information of the award, my mom used to say that when people trust you, you are in trouble. You have to do your level best not to be trouble.
Always humble. It was great yesterday. The turnout was great. You
And
had
thank you for
support.
coming, man.
Oh.
And you know, I'm really happy to have you as a sister, as a friend, and I know how passionate you are with what you are doing.
Thank you,
I
sir.
pray to God Almighty to fulfill your most cherished dreams.
Amen.
God bless you.
Amen. I appreciate it. Well, that brings us to the end of our segment for today. I'm your host, Mimi Fatou Sise, and His Excellency Dr. Mamadou Tangara, the current Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Republic of the Gambia. So it was such an honor, His Excellency, and thank you for being on the show. You're welcome. Thank you. God bless you too. Thank you. Until then, keep it locked. Stay tuned. More on the Mimi Janha Show. Bye for now.